Hey everybody, Dev here, and I'm back. Yes, after a week or so out with a bunch of schoolwork and other things going on, I'm back to make some quality videos for you. We are taking a look today at some clan wars, and since our last video where I talked about how we got shellacked by Relax, we've made a bit of a comeback, and it's good to see our war log is looking a bit more happy. We're taking a look at this war against a clan, unfortunately I can't pronounce, but we end up with a quite handy victory. And we're going to take a look at this in two parts. The first video will be on the ground, the second video will be in the air. So the first thing I want to show you is a defense, and once again Omega Supreme held out three of them, and this was the best attempt from their number 6. Also their number 4 had a crack, didn't quite get there. So this is Omega Supreme's new war base, and once again I'll just remind you how I came about this base. I actually stole it from the clan Relax. I stole it because they were a very tough clan to beat, and I figured, well, if you can't beat them, join them. So here's my CC radius. You'll note that this clan liked to use earthquakes an awful lot, and for some reason they go for that spot, which to me doesn't make much sense, but I guess if you want to get to the town hall, that seems to be the best way to go. Opened up a fair number of compartments. They also like to use golems in front of their Valks, but to me that's a bit of a waste. I think that's too much meat, especially since there are no expos in my base. You would say I'm rather exposed without expos, but no, I'm not. See, here's a bit of a CC draw. They've drawn out 4 of the archers, and in goes the rest of his Valkyries, but he hasn't got the funnel quite right. Actually, I take it back. He did get it kind of alright, but he didn't kill off the CC troops quick enough, and out come the rest of the archers, and once that's all finished, out comes a baby dragon. A couple of big bombs there, and a heal spell, which is great, but you can see that the baby dragon just went to town, and the Valks can't reach up and grab it, so it just follows everybody around, including the king. And those Lego walls are quite tough, and the V4 Valks, they just can't quite get through quick enough. So even though he's used his last heal spell, he's still got about 65% of the base, 55% of the base to go. He's not going to get there. Okay, eventually the baby dragon goes down, courtesy of a lone wizard. Okay, but the Valks end up punching through the side and then going around the outside, and they are not going to get anywhere near. Now, this is why I say the golem's a bit of a waste. Nothing worse than having a golem playing with some Lego, knocking away on those walls. So, if you're going to use golems with Valks, just go with one, I say, and try and use some jumps rather than earthquakes, because you'll end up with this sort of situation where you've got 20 seconds to go and about 17% worth, and he's just knocking away on a wall. That was the best they had. Right, onto some attacks. And we're going to feature a few. We're going to feature Omega Supreme. Now, Omega had a rough start, not going to lie, but it is worth pointing out where some mistakes were made. Now, this base here, usually you'd say it's a pretty good looking Valk base, but the CC draw on this particular base was very tricky. We looked at it from 4 different angles, and I didn't back my queen and wizards enough to break away all of that chaff and take out this building, and these buildings, in order to get to this wizard tower. I was afraid that this mortar here or this archer tower would pull it off course. Coming around this side, I was afraid that that CC wouldn't actually trigger by having that mortar there. I was actually proved wrong. That CC radius, it will trigger there, but I was cautious of hidden Teslas in here, and I was also cautious of some springs, which would have been a great place for it. Over here, again, we've got a cannon, and we've got an archer tower, and we've got a queen on standby as well, so going through here is just not an option. So I felt the best way to go would be to use my queen to take out this archer tower and this bomb tower, and try and get the hogs onto that wizard tower. Once that was done, it was a simple matter of funneling the Valks in, raging them up, healing them up, and making sure they do the business. Now, as it stands, didn't actually work that way. What I had hoped that would happen was that the queen would lock onto this archer tower and take it out before taking out, taking out the bomb tower before it would take out the archer tower. Now, the reason for that is because the other buildings are just too close. Okay, so obviously if we locked onto the Archer Tower first and then took out that one second, I could get my hogs delayed and then aiming for that one as appropriate. So I decided to use a wizard to try and get her back on course, but she ended up going slightly wrong and taking out the bomb tower first. Like I said, I wanted that one to go second. So now I knew I was in some real trouble, so I had to recover, and it was a pretty rough recovery as well. That gold storage is a good thing to have there, just holding that small queen up, and I was forced to use the ability too early, and then the hogs go in at the wrong time, got distracted, no CC drawn, so all in all, a pretty poor draw if you ask me. Alright, now you will say that I am my own harshest critic, but I deserve it in that case. So what I needed to do was think on the fly, and plan B was always come through this side and then put a jump spell through here and get the Valks in. So the queen eventually gets through and is the one that triggers the CC, and you're about to see something a little interesting as well with the CC troops. There she goes, 1, 2, 3 baby dragons. In this particular case, didn't seem too effective, and we didn't really see what they were really made of, because everyone else was able to draw them out and kill them off pretty quickly. Because they were in a group, they weren't raging up. I guess you could argue that they had hit points, but a regular dragon and a baby dragon would be better for that. But still not sure what the idea of multiple baby dragons is. If you do know, please drop some comments and share your wisdom, thanks. Speeding it up now because the rest is fairly routine. Valks got onto the core and they did alright. But then my queen ended up getting in trouble with that air defense picking off a few of the healers, and she just wasn't able to stand up to that last Archer Tower. And you can see that with my CC Valks and everything coming around the outside, you'd argue that I'm in a pretty strong position. Turns out I got 98% and a 2-star because I was about 5 seconds off, and that was that queen hammering away on the gold storage. So my immediate goal after this war was to put Omega's queen down and try to get her up nice and strong. So you can see there, 2 buildings left. Rather frustrating ending. So you can see here that there were some very interesting little bits and pieces in that one, especially since I was short only by a fraction, and it was just one of those real small sort of things that the queen, if it was one tile over, it would have been a different story, I'm fairly certain. Anyway, here's the second attack, and this is another heavily compartmentalized base. You'd argue perhaps maybe taking 1 or even 2 jumps. I went with 2 jumps, with 1 jump rather than 2, because I was conscious of the fact that the skull walls here were going to be weaker than the Lego. If I had full compartments that were fully bricked off, so to speak, with these Legos, then I would certainly want to be using 2 jumps. But because these skull walls will be the weakness, the Valks will bore through those fairly quickly. Now we've got another tricky CC draw, so my plan was to hit that Archer Tower, get the hogs locked on, and then once it goes down, hope that they go for the mortar or the air defense secondly. I'd hoped that the queen was going to take out one of the bombs that we saw in a previous scout. That didn't happen. So I knew I was going to be in trouble, so I tried to delay it by sending 1 in, but got my timing wrong. Fortunately, the double hog was the right idea, because in the end, 1 hog got cut down by the expo, but the second hog managed to trigger all the CC. Now this time we have a conventional sort of wizards and 1 baby dragon type setup. Had to pop the queen ability early as the wizards weren't going down fast enough. Now we've got a funnel on that right side, funnel on the left here, with the giants and the wizards as per normal. Jump spell's about to drop. Well, okay, I'll just wait for a sec. See that expo just hammering away on the queen. There's the jump spell, and then got that funnel all set up nice and wide. In go the Valks. There goes the rage. We speed up, because once you see this, there we go. Now you can see that the skull walls just gone straight through them. No need for that second jump spell. Keep that rage going instead. And keep the heal going. Dropping the reserve Valks and King to clean up the chaff on the outside, hoping they'll link up with the rest of the main Valks. and then it is academic from here. Right, now the last one I want to show you on this particular video is our man Peterbro. Peterbro with a very, very, very strong showing in this war. Okay, and he's sitting at number 3 in the order. He goes for their number 3, and as you can see already a 100%er, but it's one of these bases. Oh God, how many of these have you seen in your time? So many. All right, Peterbro is a bit of an expert at taking these out now. The CC draw is particularly tricky, but he does something that is quite smart when it comes to taking out the CC, or drawing out the CC here. So we'll get into that first and foremost, shall we? So his queen's a little bit stronger, even though his spells are about the same. He's got a similar sort of army composition: 16 Valks, 1 hog, no giants, a few wizards. And so he's gone queen walking. He's going to take out that mortar and that cannon with the queen. And his queen's down in the red already, but he's just holding off that ability. He's pretty confident. In goes the hog, goes for the mortar. Mortar drops. And you'll note that the hog made it through because the archer tower, sorry, I beg your pardon, the expo and the wizard tower were both locked on. So by making sure that the fire was drawn, he managed to get the hog on the mortar. Mortar went down, hog went straight for the expo, triggers the CC. All right, that's a fairly good move. And now he's got the queen taking out the expo as well. And the hog pulled those wizards off course in the poison. What a fantastic CC draw that is. It's a work of art. Finally pops the ability. And now he's setting up his funnel because he's now got the right-hand side of that funnel set up. He's now going to use a golem and some extra wizards to try and clear up what's going on around here. We're just going to break away from the queen for a moment because... don't worry, you'll see it later on. Now again, these bomb towers, it seems to me that the bomb tower is a waste of time, but lately I've seen them quite effectively used to blow up wall breakers before they get there. So if you see them on the outside, that is their purpose. Just like wizard towers, they're there to stop wall breakers from making a breach. Now he's managed to get his golem in. He's taken out the king, which is useful, and he's created a bit of a funnel here. Dropping the jump spell, you'd argue on those very low walls, what's the point? But you still need it for the pathfinding. In goes the Valks. Okay, and his goal here is to take out that first Inferno in Town Hall pretty quick. That storage there, that pink storage, is actually quite useful. In goes the Rage, that's perfect timing, and then a heal will come next. All right, revive them in between. There we go, because that Inferno was on single. Taking out the multi first makes sense. The single is only going to hit 1 or maybe even 2 Valks before they get there, so that heal spell makes perfect sense. Alright, as they're trying to chew their way through the walls, you can see they're still in that radius and they're getting revived. So that was a perfect placement. Using the Rage here, getting through everything else. And that Rage also was perfect because that second lot of Valks that went through the other side also benefited from that circle. So again, pinpoint placement from Peterbro on his spells. Okay, and his queen's still going strong, hulking up the king. We'll speed it up now, because you can see that he's still got 1 heal spell left, which he deploys right here, and keeps his Valks alive just for a little bit longer, and his barbarians and his healers are joining in the fun too. His king goes down, but all in all, as those wizards are sneaking up on those last 2 cannons, you can see Peterbro put in a very respectable performance here for 3 stars on a very common base. Right, wow, that's all we've got time for in this particular episode. The second part of the video, as mentioned before, will be an air-based video. So once again, leaves me with the usual things to say. Make sure you put a like, make a comment. I imagine someone will put down first. I imagine that'll be you, Lee. Have fun with that. And of course, spread the word, subscribe, and hope you like the stuff. As always, Dev out.